we should have talked about LGBT issues at CSW for the past 58 years. It's just that people were not open to discuss issues of sexuality. People are not open to diversity of sexual orientation and gender identity. And so it's very important for us to actually engage with the policymakers, with people who make the decisions, because we need to sensitize them about the different sexual orientations, because being a majority does not mean that you're on the right side of everything. So we need to tell them, as much as we are a minority group does not make it that we are wrong, that being gay is not something wrong, because there are few homosexuals in the world. So it's very important for us to send this message out in bodies like at the UN, in bodies like at the African Commission, because these are the bodies that actually bring member countries together to decide for their citizens.
Well, I'm here because I really believe that we have to create a space to reduce invisibility of the LGBT issues at the level of the United Nations, and because our presence is fundamental to remember that LGBT people are women, and that the framework of any kind of gender equality and women's rights has to include lesbians, gay, bisexual, and transgender women.
They included me in the delegation because they understand how important SOGI, sexual orientation, gender identity, is in the discussions of CSW, and it is an integral part of women's human rights. The Philippine Commission on Women has engaged with civil society on the issue of sexual orientation and gender identity, and has provided a space for us when they did their planning, their several years planning for gender mainstreaming in the Philippines. We have to say thank you for the work of civil societies in Southeast Asia, where SOGI has been included in discussions. Not all the time successful, but enough to get the attention of people from government. In addition, the Philippine government has successfully championed SOGI in discussions within Asia Pacific. They know that it's not a one-time thing. It's not an issue that is seasonal. It has been there, it continues to be there, it can no longer be ignored.
Sexual and reproductive health rights for trans women is an important conversation to have, because linked to that conversation is also a conversation on HIV, the issue of access to hormones, access to surgeries, access to health and well-being. Those are very important issues tied to a bigger context, on sexual and reproductive health rights for trans women, and I'm here to advocate for those issues.
Trans women are very often confined to as the only way to live or have a meaning of life, it's to be in sex work. And they, according to certain surveys, 98% of those trans women that are engaged in sex work will not be willing to do it should they have another opportunity to do another job. So it is also very important, one, to protect sex workers against violence, and on the other hand, to give those who are engaged in sex work against their will another opportunity to have other kinds of work that would allow them to live in a decent manner. You will see a large number of organizations who are totally aware of the fact that you must protect all women, not only heterosexual women, and you must protect all families and not only heterosexual families. But there are other groups of very fundamentalist women groups, what I call the patriarchal feminists that only conceive protection in their relations, one, in their relations with men, and two, as far as you are an heterosexual person. So it is a fight that is all over around in these meetings.
Well, the space is pretty hostile to sex workers and sex work issues at the moment. And what we need to do is to continue lobbying. We need to continue dialoguing. We need to continue talking about it. It's not going to change overnight. Any transformative change doesn't happen overnight. But I do think we should be having these conversations, and we should be having them regularly.
At the moment, the space is being used by conservative elements to advocate for their policies, and there is not so much representation of LGBT persons and LGBT issues, which for me was rather surprising to hear. I was expecting it to be more of a liberal and a more forward-looking platform.
So it is a very important task for the future to consider that all those vulnerable groups, including women or trans women or lesbian women or persons with disabilities or other grounds for discrimination that so often overlap on the other. And you often see that the woman, the trans woman who is, for instance, murdered in some country, it's because one, she was black, she was poor, she had a very low level of income level, she was engaged in sex work, she was homeless, and so you overlap all these causes and grounds for discrimination, and I think we are over the point to try to get all the things together. In 10 years, I think we will be laughing about this. I hope, that's my dream. We will be laughing about this conversation.